Do you fondly remember renting video games at your local Blockbuster? Well, these days, GameFly is pretty much the only rental option around.
And today, we're going to decide if GameFly is really worth the money.
Hey guys, I'm Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
We're two lifelong friends and musicians, but when we're not playing gigs, we like to talk games.
And we're talking about a little bit of a different topic today. So, Randy, I'm not really familiar, but what is GameFly?
So, GameFly is something that I wasn't very familiar with until very recently.
Yeah.
But
you put in some research.
I had heard about it, I kind of heard about it being a thing, and I've heard people talk about it. But what I didn't really know is that it's basically it's kind of thing like old school Netflix. Mm-hmm. First of all, I want to say we're not sponsored by GameFly.
Heck no.
I kind of realized when we started talking about this that we might come across as sounding like we're sponsored. Or absolutely not. I was just genuinely interested in this because we plan on doing a podcast about talking about renting video games.
Now, that being said, GameFly, today, if you play your cards right, you might earn the ability to sponsor a future episode, but no, not today.
No, but we were talking about renting video games, and I kind of ran across GameFly and started doing some research into it, and I realized that I really just wanted to kind of research it and find out if it's worth the money. Is it something that you should spend money on? Is it something that I might spend money on? I just kind of looked into it and I thought this would be a cool thing to talk about.
And, we've been kicking around the idea of talking about reminiscing on video game rentals for a while. So
this kind of plays into
GameFly is kind of a natural progression of that.
But to get back to your question about what is GameFly, I just don't want to come across as like a salesman. But basically, think like old school Netflix. You get a disc sent to you in the mail. When you're done with it, you send it back. You pay a monthly fee, and you can just kind of go through those as often as you want. Whenever you're done playing, you send it back, and then they send you another one. Mm-hmm. That's basically how it works. And there are a couple different tiered pricing things, but we'll get into that.
We'll get into that later.
But basically, that's what it is. It's a rental service that you do through the mail.
And it looks like it's got a lot of systems. I mean, obviously, you've got your PS5s, your Xbox Series, and your Switch.
Right.
But, in addition to that, it looks like we've got PS4, PS3, PS2, Vita, PSP, Xbox One, 360, OG Xbox, Wii U, Wii, GameCube, 3DS, DS, and a favorite of mine, the Game Boy Advance.
Right. So there's pretty much, up from the consoles that we grew up with, but not all the way back to the N64, PlayStation 1 eras, but basically the Xbox, GameCube, PS2 era and forward. Mm-hmm. They basically have that, and they have all the Nintendo handhelds from that era forward as well. Yeah. So it's a lot of variety, but I think they primarily focus on the new systems like the PS5, Series X, Switch, PS4, Xbox One, all the stuff that people are currently on shelves. I think is what their main thing they do, from what I understand.
That remains to be seen, Randy, because we're running a little bit of an experiment here.
Okay.
Because I love the Game Boy Advance, and when I saw that they have Game Boy Advance games, I immediately clicked because I wanted to browse their stock.
Okay, yeah.
Now, I have it linked in our notes here, and I want you to click it.
Okay.
Because you haven't seen this yet, and I just want you to take a gander at their Game Boy Advance selection.
Okay, we'll do this in real time.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, open link. Okay. Oh, gosh. I'm already a little scared. It hasn't popped up yet. It's pulling up right now. One game. An American Tail. Fievel's Gold Rush?
Fievel's Gold Rush. That's the only Game Boy Advance game you can get from GameFly.
I wonder how much this is, because we'll get to this in a minute, but from what I understand, GameFly is not just a game rental service. They also sell games, including all the games that they rent. Yeah. And if you want to keep it, you can just keep it, and you can pay a certain price. So, I wonder if, everyone who's rented out, these Game Boy Advance games, everyone has just decided to keep them, so their stock has just dwindled to one game.
That's what I think has happened, because I went through all the old systems, and
are they all in that bad of shape?
Yeah, they're all pretty bad. I mean, they've got 2 Xbox games. They've got 0 GameCube games.
Oh, they're completely gone.
Mm-hmm. They've got 3 PSP
GameCube games are super hot, so I really wouldn't see why people wouldn't want to keep them.
Mm-hmm. They've got 4 DS games. So,
what about 3DS?
3DS, they have quite a bit more.
Okay, so if it's the newer stuff, they have they've got a lot of 3DS games.
Got a lot of 3DS games.
So, okay, but in terms of new stuff, because neither me nor Daniel subscribe to this service.
No.
And we really it was me. I just wanted to kind of find out what it was about and how much it costs and what all is included. So it really seems like this is not so much oriented toward, they might are advertised that they're like saying, hey, we got retro stuff too, but that's just not the case. They do technically have some retro stuff, but it's not the stuff you're looking for. And there's only a couple options.
If you're looking for a copy of Fievel's Gold Rush, I mean, this may be the only place to get it. So, somebody snatched that up. So it's pretty hot.
Okay, so, but in terms of systems, they have everything. They have all like the big ones right now, your PS5s, your Series X, Switch, all that. Okay, I got to figure out a way to get back to my notes here.
Oh, I gotta do some iPad help for you.
There you go. So, so they have the option, as I already mentioned a second ago, they have the option to buy games. Like, say you have a game that you've rented and you decide, you know what, I want to keep this game. They have the option to keep these games. You can keep them through this service, and you get a discounted rate, so you're not even paying full price for them. And from what I understand, I did a little research on this, and it seems like they ship it to you in like a sleeve, kind of like an old Netflix sleeve, so you wouldn't have the case. But if you decide to keep the game, they ship you the case and the booklets or anything that comes in it, any like DLC download codes, if they happen to have that with the game. They ship you the box.
That's cool.
So it's just like you.
So you do get all that stuff with it.
Yeah, at that point you're just buying a used game.
So you're telling me I can get the box for Fievel's Gold Rush?
Potentially. Potentially it's complete in box, man.
Yeah, I mean, I first went there because I was like, oh my God, like these old Game Boy Advance games are really hard to get. Like, would it potentially be like cost effective to get them through GameFly? But
apparently everyone's done it already.
Apparently everybody's done it. Yeah. You can't exactly get Metroid.
We're assuming, yeah. So the most important question I had about GameFly was, what does it cost? Because, and what I found out is that it's a tiered pricing thing. So like there's a bunch of different tiers. Essentially there are 4 tiers. There is the budget option, and they call it the budget, and it's $8.95 a month. So basically $9 a month. So that's cheaper than some other things we can talk about later. But I think about that. If you're renting a game, $8-9 a month. Okay, that seems pretty reasonable. Then they have the standard, one rental at a time. The difference between budget and standard, because they're both one rental at a time, the standard is that you get you have access to new releases. So if you do the budget, you have to you can't rent a new game until it's at least 30 days old. So on the budget option, you cannot do brand new releases. You have to wait at least a month, and then you can rent it if it's available. Because it is, as far as I know, it's first come, first serve. So
yeah, and they can't exactly have an unlimited supply of these things.
Right, they can't. And then also part of the standard, though, if you upgrade from budget to standard, you get a thing called Game Lock, which Game Lock is basically a guarantee that if you want a new release, if you put it in your Game Lock, if you lock it down, essentially you know you're going to get it on release. You're going to rent on release. But here's the catch. You have to do it at least 6 weeks before the game releases. So if you decide a month before release that you want to rent this game when it comes out, you can't. It's too late. You're going to have to wait until it goes into until they get, they basically can't guarantee it. You might still know to get it, but I know they can't guarantee it unless you do that. Then you have the standard 2 rentals, which is the same exact thing. You get the Game Lock, you get the new releases, except you get 2 games a month instead of 1, or 2 games at a time. I'm sorry, not per month, because you can do as many games.
2 games at a time, yeah.
Yeah, you can do as many games as you want per month, from what I understand. But it's 2 games at a time for $22.95. I don't think I mentioned that the standard was $16 or $15.95. So we went from $9 for budget, $16 for standard, $23 a month for standard 2 rentals, and then they have their highest tier, which is the Elite, and it's 2 rentals at a time as well. And it's $30 a month, $29.95.
Yeah, and it looks like you also get like a special Game Lock with that one, where you can.
Yeah, if you do the Elite, you can reserve a copy of a new release all the way up to a week before it releases. So you get an extra 5 weeks, or if you decide over a week out before the game releases, I do want to rent this, you get basically priority.
So how does that work if all the standard people decide they want the game 5 weeks ahead? You don't really get the opportunity to use that 1 week before it's released. It could already be taken, is what I'm saying.
I think the way this works, I don't know, but I'm guessing that the Game Lock feature is they basically use this to determine how many copies they're going to purchase. And that's why they want it 6 weeks in advance. That way they can purchase as many copies as they think they need. or as they know they need, because they basically have it's like
Right.
a list. They're going to say, okay, we had 2,000 people reserve this, so we have to have at least 2,000 copies to send
Right.
out,
And some extras.
and then some extras, and then the elite you can do it up to a week before. So you got to have it, but you have more time to decide you want to rent it. So if you decide last minute, I guess, that you want to rent it, you still can if you're an elite member. And then there are some tiers for there are 3 and 4 games at a time for certain members, and they were very, very on their website non-specific about what you had to do. It just said like for select members after at least 2 months of being a member, they offer it. They offer to some people the option to have 3 or 4 games at a time, and it is at an increased price. But I figured don't even include that because they were so vague about what it even takes.
That's a funny gray area.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. So basically, those are your options. A budget at $9 a month, the standard 1 game at a time for $16, the standard 2 games at a time for $23, and then the elite which is 2 games at a time, but you can reserve games.
You have to be a member of the Illuminati for that, though.
Yeah, for $30 a month. Right. Okay, so like in terms of pricing, in terms of how this compares to other services, that was the next thing I was interested in. Mm-hmm. So hit us through what GameFly, each of those would cost per year. Say you were there for a full year, how much it would cost.
So we've got those figures here. So for the budget option, it looks like it is $108 a year. For the standard 1 rental, you're dropping $192 per year. For the standard 2 rental, you're dropping $276. And to be a member of the GameFly Elite, you're dropping $360 a year.
So those numbers like anywhere from $108 to $360 a year. That seems like a lot to me for renting video games, but I thought, once you compare it to other services and maybe compare it to traditional buying, maybe it's not that bad. Because like say you buy an average of 1 game per month, which I think for most gamers is probably...
That's pretty normal.
And for people like me and you, that's probably even conservative. We probably spend more than that.
Definitely.
At an average of $60 a game, which games are now $70, but still let's just stick with $60 and make it easy. That's $720 a year. Okay. So all these numbers, even the Elite is half the price of just buying games normally. Mm-hmm. But I'm guessing that people who are using GameFly are probably using it to, probably not as their only gaming service. They're probably using it as an addition to purchasing things. But maybe it would stop you, if you decide that you could use it as your only service, potentially, because if you say, I want to keep it, then you just decide, even if you get a brand new release, if you want to keep it, well, 1, it's a brand new copy, and then you get to keep it, and it's at a discounted rate. So
that is cool. And, we use Game Pass, as an additional service in addition to the, 1 or more games we buy per month.
Right.
And then you've done some math on that as well. It looks like Game Pass is $120 for a year.
That's for console. That's just for the one that's just on console. I thought it was important to compare this against Game Pass for console because GameFly does not do PC games, so it's only a console anyway.
Right.
But here's the thing: Game Pass for console is only Xbox, whereas GameFly, you're talking PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo, and then
Bob's Gold Rush.
Yeah. So, in some ways, it's you have more games than Game Pass does.
That's true.
More games to pick from because you're going to get all the big new games and stuff, and then plus games from years past. So there's more games, and it's all the games basically.
Yeah.
So
it is. I'm trying not to play my hand here too early with my reactions, but yeah.
Yeah. So Game Pass, I think, is a really great thing, but in Game Pass you do have the option to purchase games. Like if you like Game Pass games, they do give you a discounted rate to buy them. So that's similar, but it's a digital version.
Right.
Whereas through GameFly, it's physical. If you wanted to purchase it, you're getting the physical disc, which as a physical collector, I kind of like that.
Yeah. That is cool. That is definitely a pro. Yeah. That is a pro.
Game Pass is a catered list. You don't get to choose what games are on the list. Mm-hmm. With GameFly, you get to pick what games you
pick what you want. Yep, that's true. And then we've also got one more comparison here with another kind of old school service here, Redbox.
Yeah.
So, I've used Redbox like once.
Have you ever rented a video game from Redbox?
No, it was a movie, I think.
Yeah.
But that is apparently at $2 a day. That would be $730 per year.
Yeah, so like right now, video games through Redbox, at least the Redboxes around here. I don't know if their like pricing is set around the United States or not. I don't know, but here to rent a video game from Redbox, it's $2 a day, and basically you rent it and you bring it back whenever you want, and then it's just $2 a day, from what I understand. So that'd be if you always had a game year round, it'd be $730, which is actually more expensive than buying one game a month.
Yeah.
But I guess potentially you could go through way more than 12 games in a year if you did that. So I think it's still cheaper per game to use Redbox, but you wouldn't get to keep them. You can buy games through Redbox, but I didn't go into that.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, maybe what's a more apt comparison is maybe like, say, you go to a Redbox once a month and you rent a game and you keep it for an average of 7 days. And that would be $168. So at that point, it's somewhere less than the standard subscription to GameFly, but more expensive than Game Pass. And you're getting about 12 games a year out of it.
More expensive than, than Game Pass.
So it's kind of like in there, it's kind of more comparable there. If you're thinking like every month I go rent a game from Redbox and I spend 7 days with it.
Yeah, I mean, if you couldn't get it some other way.
It's an option.
I can see
right?
the option.
Yeah, it's an option. Redbox, I kind of just threw in as a comparison because I thought, well, it is an option.
It's at least something you see.
Yeah, you see it, right? So I have a couple different thoughts on this. One, I'm thinking about that budget option. That's $108 a year or $9 a month. Is that worth it? Is that worth the money? You don't get new releases. You have to wait at least a month to rent a game that just came out, and you don't get to reserve anything. You just have to wait 30 days, and then you can do it.
Maybe for some people. I don't think I would pay it, and I'll tell you why. Because if I can't get the new games, then I want to get the really old games. Right. And as we've already covered, all I can get is Fievel's Gold Rush. So to me, no, it's not worth it. And it's also, you got to go through the trouble of, well, you're dependent on snail mail at that point.
Yeah.
And you got to ship things back. I mean,
I think that's probably my main worry about something like GameFly is like just the hassle of like
it's a hassle
of having to get in the mail and then you send it back. Apparently, it is like really. They say it's like
I mean, I'm sure they streamline.
It's like
it
rush
as much
mail.
as they
try to get it as quick as you can, but
I mean, especially post pandemic, like the mail hasn't exactly been the most reliable thing, in the past couple of years. So,
right. So, I'm agreeing. I think that unless you just don't care about, if you don't care about playing new games, the budget option may be worth it.
Yeah.
So, if you don't care about playing games right when they come out and you don't mind waiting at least a month, a lot of times I don't get around to games until like a year after they release anyway. So I can understand that. But I also sometimes really want to play those new games. And if I was relying on this service, I think well, let's just talk about the standard. Daniel, what is your thought about the standard, just like one game at a time rental for $16 a month? Do you think that would be worth it? Is that worth the money to you?
No, I don't think it is. I mean, not that it isn't a cool service, but there's even more hassle at that point because you got to make sure you're reserving your copies 6 weeks ahead. Like you're still dealing with the mail, like we just talked about. Still can't get any of those cool old retro games. For me, it's not. But
yeah, for you, I think that for a lot of people, the standard one rental at a time would actually be a really good option because, especially if you don't have an Xbox and you don't have something like Game Pass, or if you just don't like the games and you want to choose your games that you're playing.
Yeah. If you don't have the Game Pass thing going for you or any of that, I can see how it's definitely more upside at that point.
Yeah. Because at that point, you can decide if you want to keep your games, if you want to collect them. If you don't like them, you just immediately send them back.
Right.
You still got to deal with the hassle of going through the mail. So it's kind of like, I don't know if I'd want this to be my only thing I was relying on. But as a supplement, I could see that standard one rental thing, being an option. I think I think it is the price point. I think I would like to see it $16 a month. If it was,
it's more than Netflix.
It's less than Netflix.
No, it's not.
Oh, how much is Netflix? I thought Netflix went up.
Just went up to like 15 something.
Oh, okay. Well, so it's about
still
the same
more.
price.
It's still.
Oh, but here's the thing, Daniel. Here's the thing. I completely forgot about this until now. GameFly is not just games. There's also movies.
That is true. I forgot about that as well.
So if you like randomly don't want a game and you're like, I don't want a game. I want a movie. You can do a movie instead. So
let's see. I wonder. I mean, yeah, they do have some new movies. I mean, here's Spider-Man: No Way Home going to be available in April. So
that's probably when it releases.
Yeah, probably. The House of Gucci. I'm subscribing.
So, so that's another thing we talk about is that I'm thinking of this primarily as a gaming service. I think that's their main thing, but they also do have movies. Should you decide that instead of a game, you want a movie?
And they have a lot of movies. I'm scrolling through them now, and it's not a bad selection. It's going
to be like old school Netflix, I assume.
Yeah, I think so.
So the standard 2 rentals for $23 a month. I think like if this is your only service, I think that would be more okay. Like I'm thinking like the 1 rental is probably for people who are just supplementing their regular purchasing, and then the 2 rentals is going to be maybe more for someone who like this is their only service.
Yeah,
and they only use GameFly. They have a budget of $23 a month, and they're trying to keep the budget. That's pretty cheap for gaming, because that's going to be what? That's $276 a year compared to if you buy a game a month at $720. That's less than half the price. So that's still putting you on a pretty good budget.
And you're getting the ability to have 2 games. So say you don't like one, you can pop the other one in. You don't have to wait for the mail.
Right.
So that appeals to me a little more.
Right.
Even though it is more expensive, and I can't hardly play more than 1 game at a time anyway.
Right. Yeah. But still, I think that one is a better one for someone if you're wanting it to be your main gaming service. I could see the standard 2 rentals being a fairly good option.
Yeah.
And then finally, the Elite 2 rentals, $30 a month. They tack on an extra $7 a month just to give you the option to reserve a game only 1 week in advance instead of having to do it 6 weeks in advance.
Yeah, I'm not cool with that because we already said like the standard 2 rental, if it was going to be your only service, that might be the way to go. But if that was the only way I was playing video games, I would plan 6 weeks ahead.
Exactly.
I'm not going to pay $8 more or $7 more to not have to at that point. Like I'm going to make it happen,
Right. I understand like sometimes like the hype gets up and you're like, oh, you know what? The hype for this game is building right now. I kind of want to get it. And it's only like, 2, because the hype really sometimes doesn't really start building until you're like just 2-3 weeks out from release.
That is true. But if you can already reserve 2 games at a time, I'm probably going to reserve that hyped game anyway.
You're going to have it on your reserve in case. Just reserve every big new game that's coming out no matter what.
I would have Horizon Forbidden West reserved, even though I didn't really want to play it.
Right, because it's not going to. You're just going to have it just.
Because what if I do want to play it?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know. I'm not trying to throw off on people.
So your thought on this is, if any of these are worth the money, it's the standard 2 rentals.
I think so.
And then we got to keep in mind that if you're a member, after a certain period of time, they offer you the option to have a 3 rental and 4.
They bring you into the inner circle.
Yeah, you can do 3 games at a time or 4 games at a time. I don't know. My thought is this. Honestly, as a supplemental thing, I could see myself using a service like GameFly. And here's why. Compared to something like Game Pass, which I already spend $15 a month on, because I do Game Pass Ultimate.
Happily.
This is at the standard prices. It's essentially the same. Okay, it's $1 more. Okay, it's essentially the same. But if I decided that I wanted to keep those games with Game Pass, if I decided I want to keep it, I go buy it physically. I might buy a used copy physically or something.
Yeah.
And who knows what I'm going to pay for it? But at least with something like GameFly, if I decide I want to keep it, I just keep it.
That is neat.
I think that's kind of cool. As a collector,
yeah, I
think that's kind of... And the games that I didn't want to keep, I just send back.
That is cool. Yeah. That's a good angle to take.
So I could see... I'm semi-tempted by the standard 1 rental.
The standard 1 rental.
And in a way, I'm kind of tempted by the budget. And let me tell you why. Because if you're trying to fill out maybe your games that have come out a couple of years ago and you never got to, you could rent them. And if you decide, hey, I actually like this game, I'm going to keep it. You could do that. You could be a great way to catch up on the games that are just a couple of years old.
That's true.
And for
with the option to buy.
With the option to buy, right. For $9 a month, that's really not bad. But with the budget option, you don't get new releases. You have to wait at least a month. So at that point, if you're wanting to play a game at release, you're going to have to buy it anyway. So I don't know how much use I get out. That's tough. Yeah. I think I might lean more towards the standard, to be honest.
Am I going to start seeing GameFly envelopes come into town, Randy?
I haven't decided, but I haven't decided. I really haven't. But that's why I wanted to make this video, is to kind of flesh out, is it worth it? I'm still not sure I've decided. I think that do you have any final thoughts on if it's worth the money or not?
I mean, I can only speak for me, and I already have enough game subscription services that I'm paying for.
Yeah.
That it would have to be amazing for me to want to add another one. Mm-hmm. And this just doesn't do it for me.
Do you think that...
I can see all your points about you can buy, and that's really cool.
I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, I pay $15 a month for Game Pass, and I do get use out of Game Pass. Mm-hmm. I sure do, but the thing is, I kind of don't like that on Game Pass. I don't get to pick the game, so I kind of am forced to kind of choose from this list that they already have, and sometimes I want to play a game and it's just not on there.
But it is a really good list.
It's a good list, but this is arguably a better list.
I mean, it's objectively better because it's got everything. Yeah. Even Fowl's Gold Rush.
Well, it's got everything up to
How much can I milk that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Man, I'm telling you what, sidebar though, Fowle Goes West back in the day, that is an absolute banger of a movie. I wonder if that's on Game Pass.
You mean on GameFly?
Yes, I do.
Fowle Goes West?
I don't even know how to spell Fowle.
It's you're gonna have to check the Game Boy Advance listing to see how it's spelled. I'm just not really sure. And it kind of feels like, going back to GameFly while Daniel's looking this up, it feels kind of old school. It's like, you gotta do it through the mail. I get that, that's if there was a physical store, I don't know, they would have to have. Then they have a bunch of other costs. They wouldn't be able to offer this at the price point they are.
Right. They don't even have Fowle Goes West.
Oh, no.
I'm not getting my money.
I honestly think that this could be a decent way to game on a budget. I'd say that this rivals Game Pass. I think it may be a better way to game on a budget than Game Pass.
I think you can make that point if it was your only thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's better than Game Pass because, one, it factors in that you can have other consoles than an Xbox.
Right.
I mean, that in itself is huge.
Mm-hmm. I think, and I was going to ask you this. I don't know if you know, but how do you think GameFly is doing? Do you think they're doing
Every time
well?
I hear about GameFly, it's when they're selling their games. Mm-hmm. Because from what I understand, they have all these new releases and they reserve so many copies. But then once they get them all out and they're not being rented out to everybody at the same rate anymore, they sell off their used copies and they sell them at a pretty good price. Mm-hmm. And that's how I always hear about them. It's GameFly is selling off their old stock, and you can buy this game that's only 6 months old at a really great price.
Right.
So, I'm sure they're probably doing okay. I really don't know.
I don't either. I see the being forced to go through the mail as a huge hindrance that I just don't think a lot of people are gonna be super keen on.
How else do you do it? I mean, Amazon's through the mail. I mean,
yeah, but you're not always shipping stuff back to Amazon. Yeah. Getting things delivered is one thing. It's the shipping back. I think that.
I mean, yeah, I get it. It is
in this world of short attention spans and instant gratification like that. I see that as a deterrent. Not that I don't think it's a good service, because you're right, it is.
Yeah,
but
we asked you guys a related question in a poll. We said, and thank you guys for voting in the polls. This was one of our best, most participated in polls. It had some of the most comments, if not the most comments out of any poll we've ever had. So thank you guys for voting in these. It really means a lot to us. And we asked, have you ever rented a video game? Yes or no?
Yeah, it looks like 57% of you have, and 43% of you have not.
So, we back in the day, back in the mid-90s to mid-2000s, renting video games was like, it was a way of life. That was what we did all the time.
It was so fun.
We go to our local game store, I mean, our local video rental place. We had a couple of them.
Yeah. Never had a Blockbuster in town. It was
no, but I used to
smaller.
go to the Blockbuster in Canton.
I went there like twice, maybe.
Yeah. And you would rent a video game, and it cost about that, like $1 a day. And you'd rent it for a while, and you'd bring it back, and it was super fun. But if you didn't finish the game, you had to rent it again.
And hope you got the same cartridge, if it was like one of those cartridge games or systems, I mean. But.
So this one was pretty split, but over half the people have rented a video game.
You know what I think that's split by?
What's that?
Age.
You think that younger people haven't rented video games and older people have? Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we have your comments to go through, and so the first one was Gary. Gary says, back when Blockbuster was still in business, wow, I feel old. Yeah. Saying I rented games when Blockbuster was still in business.
Yeah.
When did Blockbuster go out?
Oh, dude, I don't know. But this ain't going to make us feel any younger.
It wasn't that long ago. No way it was that long
I'll look it up.
Because there were still a few like Blockbuster holdouts. There were still like a couple stores.
2014.
See, that's not that long ago.
That's, 8 years ago. Yep. Then we got a repeated commenter here. Y343Y says, every month I rent hundreds of great games for $15. Pretty sure that's in reference to Game Pass.
Yeah.
But it could be in reference to an extremely active GameFly subscription. So we don't know.
Oh, yeah, that would be extremely active.
What if they get $16, so they're paying, the standard one rental?
One rental.
So they can only have one game at a time, but they're going through hundreds every month. They would keep the post office in business.
There's no way, because there'd be no way. I wonder what the maximum number of games you could play in a month with GameFly. With the one rental, let's imagine it's let's just say it's 2 days to you and 2 days to ship it back, okay? So let's say that there's 4 days of...
7 or 8 games.
I mean, that'd be the max. That'd be like if you played for 1 day, did it all day, and then took a 2-day breather, and then played a game all day. Yeah, I don't know about that. Okay, so then after that, we got Heather Cook, who is also a frequent commenter on the channel. Heather says, used to sleep over at my friend's house every Friday night. His mom would let us go pick out a game every week, and we would always pick out Vigilante 8. I don't know why it took us 7 weeks of renting the same game for her to be like, I'll just buy the darn thing. We had so much fun.
I can relate to that.
Oh, yeah.
I relate to that hard. Anytime we had any sort of birthday party or anything, we'd always go to the game store and get 2 or 3 games. And I remember a lot of those repeated rentals.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you, a standard for me was Gauntlet Legends.
Gauntlet Legends. What was that on?
N64.
N64.
I want to say it was Legends. It was definitely
Gauntlet. I don't remember that game.
It was just it was a great party game. It was you picked a medieval character and you went through these levels killing things. That was pretty much it. Kind of like a Warcraft style.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if I remember that.
Yep, Gauntlet Legends. It was on the N64.
That's awesome.
It dropped in 1998.
I'll tell you, the ones that I remember renting over and over were a couple of them. The main one that we rented all the time was Iggy's Wrecking Balls. I don't know if you remember that game.
I don't.
But we loved that game. Me and my brother. We rented that game all the time. That was one. Another one we rented often was Paper Mario for the N64. That one was always fun. And
That's
then Yoshi's Story for N64. We rented that one a bunch. And then Majora's Mask. Rented that one a bunch. And those are ones that I don't know why. Some of those games, like Yoshi's Story, Paper Mario, Majora's Mask, and all 4 of those. My parents should have just bought those games because we rented them so many times.
Yeah. At some point, you're getting a little bit of a diminishing return there on the repeated rentals.
Yeah.
Old Daryl Dean also said he's 35, so of course he's renting games.
Yeah. And Daryl also comments a lot on us. A lot of you guys who comment all the time are frequent flyers of the channel.
We appreciate that.
So Daryl says, I'm 35. Of course I have. Yeah. Of course you've rented games.
Yeah. I really relate to the inherent get off my lawn nature of this comment. I feel you, Daryl. I'm not 35, but I'm not far off.
So next we have a CTR Akina. I guess that's what it would be.
CTR Akina. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It said library in Utah had games you could rent.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I wondered about this because, like I remember finding out that our local library had music, like
Yeah.
CDs that you could go borrow. And I don't remember ever hearing about our library having games that you could borrow, but
I don't think
I
it did.
kind of wonder if they did.
They might have.
I mean, I found out about the game, the CDs and music way late.
Yeah.
It was like when I was in high school, I was like, oh my gosh, I could have been taking out CDs this whole time. And I did borrow a few.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
OFWGKT8 Jinx, who we will now refer to as Jinx, says there was a thing called Redbox, and it would give us games and movies. Yeah, and we talked about Redbox. I think our Walmart still has one.
No, there's one out in front of. There's certainly
one outside
out in front
CVS.
outside in front of Kroger. I think we have multiple Redbox in town.
Yeah, I think we do too.
So Redbox is still a thing around here. It may not be everywhere. It may be going other places, but around here, Redbox is still very much used.
That's right.
Yeah, and it works. I don't know how much it's used for games. I mean, certainly movies, though.
Yeah.
So then Bing Bong, who is another frequent flyer on the channel.
Shout out to Bing Bong.
Bing Bong says, Jumbo Video? Jumbo Video, anybody? Now, I didn't know what Jumbo Video was, so I asked.
Yeah. And Bing Bong says they were Canadian blockbusters, and the mascot was a jumbo elephant. They give you free popcorn while you browse the games, had reasonable prices for renting, and a full system for weekend movies. So you could rent games and a system for the weekend for reasonable prices. That's what he's saying. The lack of punctuation threw me off there. Movies were cheaper if you got a few games at the same time, and he misses it so much, or she.
Do you remember renting a full system? Because we did it a couple times.
I never did that, but I know you could.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we didn't have a Jumbo Video. We had a Mountain Video.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mountain Video, who's still somehow around.
Hey, we still have a video rental place in town. So
I'm going to go to Mountain Video.
I've been not that long ago.
What were you doing?
I think we were looking for a specific movie that we couldn't find anywhere.
So you thought,
and they
Mountain
also
Video
did
would
not have it.
Okay, Randy.
But anyway, well, I say recently. I mean, it was probably like
3 years ago.
probably.
Yeah.
So we used to rent the original Xbox before we got one. That was the system that we rented at that time. And then eventually my parents purchased us an Xbox, and my brother stashed it in his room, and I never got to play it because he would never put it in the living room. He was like, oh,
Curse you, Steven.
He said, you don't want to play Halo. You know, I play Halo every night with my friends. You don't need this. So
Steven,
I did not
if you're watching this, that's not cool, bro.
I never got much time on the Xbox or the Xbox 360. He did the same thing.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of our comments here, Randall.
I think it does, but we're not finished.
Heck no, we're not finished. So I want to know, man, and the people want to know what you been playing.
Yeah, so we've been ending episodes now with what we're playing. Right now, I'm playing the same games I was playing last week. So
Yes.
I am Horizon Forbidden West, which I am very close to finishing now. I am on, at least it feels that way story-wise. It feels like things are coming to a conclusion, and I'm towards the end of that. I'm also on Half-Life Alyx, which I have realized I am just working at a very slow pace. And it's just because I'm like wanting to go check out. I'm opening every drawer. I'm looking for ammo and resin and everywhere I can. And I'm just going really slow through that game. But that being said, I wouldn't be, if it was a game I wasn't enjoying, I would try to fast track it. And
right.
the fact
You
that
love that game.
And the fact that I'm playing it slowly just shows you how much I'm enjoying it. Because I don't do that. I usually really fast track games.
Yes, you do.
And so that I'm playing Fable 3 with Catherine. And again, that's another one we're getting very close to the end of. We're trying to finish it by this Friday, because this Friday Kirby comes out and we're going to play that in co-op.
Yep.
And then I'm streaming Sea of Thieves every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday.
Yeah, we actually missed this past Thursday. Sorry about that if you were offended, but we were putting the gig in Gaming Gig. You know, it was St. Patrick's Day, and we had to bring the music to the people. I'm also playing a lot of the same games I was playing. Sea of Thieves, of course, is a constant thing. And Season 6 is super cool, by the way. I don't know if we want to make some content about that or not, but I'm digging Season 6. And then I'm still working through Elden Ring, which I very much love. I'm getting a little frustrated with the PC port being a little unstable at times. I've talked to you about how often they've patched it.
Are you regretting purchasing on PC instead of getting it somewhere else?
I kind of wish I'd got it on PS5 just because I've heard it runs well there, and it runs well on PC when it's working. It's just like it's kicked me out a few times, and then there's lots of reports of where it'll freeze and then it'll catch up real quick, so I don't know if that's necessarily dropping frames or what you would call
It's like
that.
a bit of a stutter or something.
Yeah, it'll stutter. I wanted it on PC because I knew how easy it would be to capture the footage. It's just so easy for me to capture footage on PC, and I also love my new PC, so I'm still trying to play games on it. But I'm a little disappointed with the PC port of Elden Ring. That being said, I'm still loving the game, and I'm going to keep playing it. And I'm making progress. It's just slow. But I also have been playing those new Mario Kart tracks. In fact, when you showed up today, I was playing them.
Yep.
So probably going to make a video about that this week. But I'm digging those. So if you haven't, if you've got the expansion or the booster course pass, I'd be interested to know what you think about those new courses.
Yeah, let us know, guys. Well, I think that's it for us. So until next time, guys, I'm Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
And this has been Gaming Gig.
Peace out.